Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by my bud Dave.
Hi.
And we've got someone stumbled into the episode. I don't know how he got here. It's not that time of the through the chimney. Yes. He's usually not here with us this time of the year. He doesn't join the podcast during the most cheerful, festive, and we're talking whimsical, I guess, festivities.
Sure.
He does not join us this time of the year. Also, this episode doesn't involve a gourd of any kind. So this is something different. Changing it up. We've got Adam, a.k.a. Great Pumpkin Project, back on the show.
Welcome back again.
Thank you. It's a brief 2 months, hiatus, and then
pretty much
bring on hipster Santa, and we're good.
Hipster Santa.
There he is.
You know what? You're looking Chris Kringle-ish right now. So
He wears Danzig t-shirts.
That's amazing that you're wearing a Christmas Danzig t-shirt.
All he wants for Christmas is your skull.
That's amazing. That's fucking great. That's perfect. I just noticed that. So I'm happy we got the live reaction on the podcast. That's fucking great. I just realized that. At first I thought it was a Black Christmas t-shirt. And then I was like, whose face is that?
It's like 8-bit looking Danzig.
Holding someone's head. Perfect. Yeah. Yo, Danzig. You think Danzig is a big Christmas fan?
There was those pictures that came out last year or something where he was like wrapping cutting with pink scissors. Like the poor man can't do anything without getting judged.
Oh, yes, you're right. I forgot about that. Like that infamous photo of him holding groceries that everyone loves. Have you seen that one?
No, he's got to eat, right?
The cat, God forbid he gets his cat litter.
Yes, exactly. People just made fun of him because it's like him. There's like a picture, I think, of him holding groceries. Then there's one of Stone Cold Steve Austin holding four bags.
He's just like us.
People forget these people are human. I don't know if Danzig is just like us. He is definitely a different breed. He's definitely a different type of human. But
he's from New Jersey.
Yes, he is. Listen, Misfits. Danzig era Misfits, some of the best. Yo, Danzig's first 3 albums, or maybe even 4.
You're right.
Fantastic.
They're very good.
Very good. So I don't care. I've seen the Misfits with Danzig live. One of the best.
I did twice.
Yes, one of the best experiences ever. Haunted Hangover loves Danzig. So
yes.
Shout out to Glenn, like we know him personally.
If you're listening, Glenn.
If you're listening, Glenn.
If you're listening, Glenn, you do what you want to do with your wrapping paper and your scissors this holiday season.
And your skull.
Your skulls, yes. Merry Christmas,
you got someone's
Glenn
skull
Danzig.
for Christmas.
Probably did. He definitely owns several human skulls somewhere in his home, I'm sure.
For sure.
Probably.
But that's enough gushing about Glenn Danzig at the top of the show. Because we're talking iconic Santas once again. 4th time here. 4th time's the charm.
That's it. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. And you know what, Adam? You're always with us, talking iconic jack-o'-lanterns. I wanted to confuse you, throw you off a little bit, and have you back on talking Kris Kringle, Saint Nick, Papa Noel, whatever other names he has.
I was super excited to do this because it's easier than the pumpkin thing because I knew my picks off the bat were easy. And there's a million options, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know? So
I love how pumpkins are more difficult than Santa for the Halloween lovers here, all 3 of us.
It's iconic. It's finding the what's the term? Iconography of a pumpkin is more difficult than for Santa Claus. But I didn't know this was the 4th time you did it until you just told me. So I was like, really? But it's not. It's not surprising that you could easily do 4 of them. And then when you said you haven't used my picks, then I'm good. So
yeah, it's funny because, and we always say this whenever we do these episodes, the word iconic, it's a personal choice. It's iconic to us.
Yeah, it's a loose term.
Yeah, so they don't have to be iconic like, oh, this is the one everyone knows from pop culture. It's iconic to us or ones we find interesting. That's the definition in Haunted Hangover, in the Haunted Hangover dictionary. Iconic quite different.
It's
than
basically
what you
just
find.
whatever's in pop culture. So
And
I
whatever
think
we
it's
like.
cooler.
yeah.
I think it's cooler putting somebody onto something they don't know
Right,
already.
absolutely.
So
Exactly. Now, before we go into our 6 picks between the three of us, Adam, two things. When did you find out that Santa Claus was not real? Hopefully, I'm not spoiling it for you right
what?
now on the
What?
podcast.
No.
Motherfucker, I thought he was real.
All right, so I'm gonna try and make this real short because it's a great story. So I was a very imaginative kid when I was younger. I think I found out he wasn't real probably around 9 or 10. So that's late for some people. Me and a neighbor a few years before we found out even went on out of our way and recorded an audio cassette and sang Christmas songs and just talked to Santa Claus. We're like, we're gonna send this tape to the North Pole. Santa Claus is real. We're gonna get one back. And sure as shit enough, Christmas morning in our stockings, we both got audio cassettes like, oh, yeah, Adam and Jamie, it's sent over here from the North Pole. We're like,
That's
holy
great.
shit! Oh,
That's
like,
incredible.
we were dead believers. But when I found out he wasn't real, I think my parents kind of like, all right, let's be a little sloppy about it. Then there were wrap presents in their bedroom, whatever, and we used to go over. I lived in a neighborhood, and 4 houses all had kids of the same age. And so on Christmas Eve, like all the neighbors would go to one house and we'd get it together and we're there all stressed out, like, it's 12 o'clock. What if Santa Claus misses the house because you're here drinking Sambuca? Like, what the hell? We're all pissed off. When we get home, it's probably 12:30. My parents are good and sauced, and I'm still awake. I haven't fallen asleep yet. And I'm laying in bed and I'm hearing crinkling of wrap and paper. And like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And I hear my dad, who's Jewish, to boot because he doesn't care.
He doesn't give a shit about Santa.
He's like,
That's
he's like,
perfect.
Jesus Christ, Linda, did you get him enough presents? Right? And I stood on my bed, cried at the end of my bed, and I cried. And then the next morning, I'm opening up my presents. Oh, yeah, cool, photon or whatever. And they're like, you okay? Like, they knew. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. It was basically like, what's wrong? Like, is Santa Claus real? Like,
Oh my god, I love how their laziness is what spoiled.
Well, there was
it for you.
intentional laziness,
Yes,
and then
intentional
I'm like,
laziness.
but then who recorded the tape? And like it was Uncle Paul. Like, shit.
I wish
So,
they didn't give that away. I wish they
you know
just
what,
left that.
That would have been cool, but obviously that's expecting a little bit more, just more of them. But yeah, it's like, oh, you were all drunk, you didn't care. And then I had the unfortunate to break into a friend the next year. Like, comes rollerblading down to my house, and I had to tell him, like, my mom just told me Santa Claus didn't buy me these rollerblades. I'm like, well, welcome to the real world, but
Wait. So did you spoiled it for this other kid just
no,
because
because what he said,
Okay.
I know it wasn't his rollerblades, it was his pads.
Okay.
And she's like, you make sure you wear those elbow pads when you go. I paid good money for those. He goes, I thought Santa bought them. She goes, well, now you know. And it was cruel. So he's like, I'm going to ask you something, and you better tell me the truth. And I'm like, oh, shit, what? And he's like, is Santa Claus real? And I'm like, why? Are you sure? And he tells me what his mom told him. I'm like, well, and sat in my driveway and cried. So,
This sounds like the most intense conversation between two children. It's just like...
At the time, when you're only that old, yeah, of course it is. So, too brutal. Are you going to tell yours, or did you do it in your previous episodes?
we did it in our previous episodes. Dave told his story about finding all the gifts hidden in a closet, and I think mine was just over time. I put two and two together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, all right.
I wasn't hurt.
Yeah, it was whatever.
It was just like whatever.
There's definitely a divide between reality and being a kid when you find out Santa Claus isn't real, because like, I didn't grow up in a religious family. So if you're religious, whatever, Jesus still exists and he can do whatever. But when you don't have that and you're like, oh, this seemingly impossible thing, I'm like, how can one person go around the entire world and give presents, whatever? But when it comes down to, yeah, this isn't real, that stuff like that can't happen. You're like, oh,
yeah,
like, damn, like, wah, wah, wah. Get a job.
Yeah, I compare it to like monsters. It's weird because when you're like
Yeah.
6, right? Your parents will tell you when you're 6, oh, monsters aren't real, but
But
Santa Claus is.
exactly.
So
Yep.
it's kind of just comparing the two things. It's really odd. Just like taking
Totally
a step back.
justifiable.
Of course, like,
Right?
oh, don't worry, Freddy won't get you, but this fat man will come down the
Come down.
He's
chimney.
he's real though.
Chimney
Yes.
that we don't have.
Yes. And give you gifts. A magical big red man will jump down creepily and give you these
Right.
presents
Yeah.
and eat cookies and drink milk. So it's just
Can you
so odd.
Can you imagine being a parent now when all the kids got to do is go on the internet or ask
Oh.
Alexa, and it's like
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. That's a very good point.
it's such a terrible thing. It's like with technology, all the magic of everything is pretty much ruined. You can get an answer anywhere. Ask Siri, hey
Yeah.
Siri, ruin my life right now. So,
It's interesting. I have like a 10-year-old niece and nephew, and they're at the age now where and I have another niece who's a year younger. They know
Right.
Santa's. They look at us like, why are you asking me what we want for Christmas?
That's cute.
I thought Santa's supposed to bring it. So it's
that's
one
cute,
of those
Uncle Louie.
Yeah, again, it's like they know that Santa's not real, but they're like living the gimmick still. Like they're still
Good
like,
for
Yeah,
them.
they're playing into the part, even though they know
yeah,
it's not real.
like they know at this point. I think
Right,
the younger
of course.
one, she still believes in Santa. Like she was still shocked to see him. Like, oh, Santa's coming. We have to write the list and all that and send it in the mail. So there's still a little bit of an illusion with her of the reality of Santa. But with the older ones, nah, they're done. They threw in the towel. They're just doing it to make us smile, and that's basically it. So
They're appeasing
They
you
have-
guys.
They have conversations like, "Hey, do you think they know that we know? Like, how long is
Yes.
it going to keep dragging this on?"
probably, and I'm sure they probably have told the younger one like, "Oh, Santa's not real. Or you're silly for thinking like he's real." But
Ruining
she
it
probably
for all the
ignores
kids.
them. Yeah, weird. It's interesting. Again, the whole concept when you take a step back and just look at it. One more thing, and
Sure.
Dave and I even talked about this too. Did you take pictures with Santa Claus at the mall?
Yeah, there's not, from what I can remember, I haven't seen a ton of them, not my parents. I know it's happened. I know there's one of me crying probably when I'm like 2 years old. Um, I don't remember being a big mall Santa kid because it's like the story I was told was like, look, it's Santa's elf. He relays, it's not really. He relays the message back.
He's
And I was
Santa's elf.
Right, like we didn't.
He's an elf dressed up as Santa. That's amazing.
Right, exactly. He's like one of his workers. It's not like you had the stupid elf on the shelf shit now. But
Oh God,
it was
I don't
like,
know
oh,
anything about that.
don't. It's the worst.
Avoid
Let's
it.
let's
Poor-
not get into that.
My friends who were parents, and every night you got to come up with some creative garbage to have the elf do, and oh God. My mom was just like, "Hey, I saw an elf today when you were being an asshole in ShopRite." It's like, oh fuck, go fix it. But no, Santa at the mall, not really. We had a family friend who like we'd go over prior to Christmas. He would come over and be like, "Oh, give us gifts," and they're like, "Oh, it's just another elf that you would ride away in his like Chevy, Altima or
Yeah,
Nissan Altima or whatever." But like we knew, but like the mall Santas were always weird. The breasts always smelled weird. They never
Oh,
had
God.
real beards. When you saw a real bearded Santa, you're just like, okay, so
They're legit now. Like if you go to the mall
They
and
get,
yeah,
let me tell you, they get paid. I had a
Really?
customer who was offered $5,000 to come visit his family Christmas morning. And he's like, I can't, I have to be with my family. And he's like, name your price. And he upped
Wow.
it $3,000. And the guy was like, here's $8,000. Come to my house for about half hour.
dressed
like,
up
well,
as Santa.
We're going on vacation. So
Wow, what a gig!
I mean, yeah.
hopefully,
honestly.
I get fat, which is doubtful, and this gets whiter, and then we can start talking side hustle.
We're gonna Adam Claus.
Not
There
a
you
bad
go.
side hustle.
Not a bad side hustle. Just
Right.
listen. You could always just stuff the shirt, man. Play it up like that. That's
Exactly.
that's an iconic look. The fake belly on the fake mall Santa.
No kid wants hipster Santa. They want the real deal.
I don't know, man. 2023.
I don't know. Today,
yeah.
I know they might want hipster Santa.
They might go out there
Never
wearing
know.
your Birkenstocks. You know what I'm saying?
That's hippie Santa.
There you go, Birkenstocks. Wear like your sail boy, boy rolled up Moby Dick hat, big
Uh,
beard. Come on,
I don't need the
man.
money that bad.
Some good money there, man. Come on.
You're right.
But yes, we're gonna be talking about the iconic Santas, and we've got some interesting picks this year. I think between the six of them, I've got one basic bitch pick. I'm not gonna lie. One of my picks is a basic bitch, and it's something I don't think has come up on the show too much. So I would love both of your takes on it, and it's something I think everyone, for the most part, enjoys. And Dave's got a big theme with his this year. There's a theme going on.
It wasn't on
with
purpose.
this.
It was
which
not
is
on
funny.
purpose.
It was not on purpose, but he's got a theme, unintentional. And another rare thing, we're not starting with Adam. We're not starting with the guest in this episode. We're starting with Dave. At Dave's request. With Dave's request, we're starting with him.
It makes a little more sense for me to start, and let's just go right into it now, and you'll see why.
New Coca-Cola Santa Packs, the only real holiday refreshment. Look for this display at your store.
Holiday refreshments like we bring. A proper Santa pack, it's always a real thing. Santa Packs are Coca-Cola.
So, my first pick for iconic Santas, number 4, is the Coca-Cola Santa. And I'm surprised we haven't brought this up yet, especially the 4th episode in doing this. Because anytime I think of Santa Claus, this is what I think of, is the Coca-Cola Santa. Like, it's just that oil painting, of Santa is what I see every time I think of this. And this Santa was featured in Coke ads since the 20s. Undoubtedly, Coca-Cola helped shape the image of Santa Claus. The company commissioned artist Haddon Sundblom, I think that's how it's pronounced, was born in Michigan, to come up with a Santa Claus that was actually Santa and not someone dressed like the jolly icon. Both wholesome and realistic, Santa debuted for the company in 1931 in Coke ads such as the Saturday Evening Post, Ladies' Home Journal, National Geographic, The New Yorker, and many others. This is why I was like, let me start it off, because this is pretty much the start of the Santa iconography or iconic, however Adam was trying to pronounce it before. Like, this really is the start of it, in my opinion. I would go on a limb.
It's a safe bet that this is where like the red and white costume and all that comes from. Yeah.
Right. So Santa appeared from 1931 to 1964 in all various settings, delivering toys, children waiting up to see and meet him, rummaging through refrigerators for a snack. I mean, you name it, there's all types of things that Santa Claus is doing. And, you would see the ads, and, all of these paintings would be adapted to be featured on like store displays, billboards, posters, calendars, and even dolls. And I think really for me, the takeaway from this entire thing is when you look at that Santa Claus, it really is like a wholesome looking, jolly man that's also realistic, but also kind of like ethereal and surreal, if that makes any sense when you look at them.
Yeah, he's a little uncanny valley. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
So he's got kind of a weird, because he's obviously human. He's supposed to look human. So, and they always make him really happy. He's got like he always looks like shocked and smiling and drinking a Coke, really happy about that caffeine.
But like I said, this is what even to this day, you name Santa Claus, I'm thinking of the fucking Coca-Cola can, and I don't think they even put him on the cans anymore. But
no, they traded him for like those polar bears eventually.
Remember? Yeah, which are fine too. Those are fine too. I mean, those don't bother me. But yeah, I think this is a good way to start this episode off, because this is like the start of Santa Claus.
I don't know if you, in your research, know for certain or not, because I have in my notes when I knew what we're gonna talk about, wasn't he the reason for all the red? Like, is that fact? That
so I sourced my information, and listen, I told Louis beforehand I could have gone on with so many notes about this, but I'm keeping this short and simple. I do believe you're right. The red and the white is actually stems from I believe someone else that painted Santa in I believe in the middle of a crowd, holding holding the soda, and then he adapted from that.
Yeah. So he saw that, and that's what inspired him to create the look
Right.
of this Santa Claus. Interesting. I was thinking too, because when you look at certain decorations of Santa, especially like back in the day, especially like if you're religious, he's not red and white.
Right.
Like
There's
Saint
all kinds
Nicholas,
of
yeah.
iterations of him. Right.
He's wearing like a big coat, and like there's no like the beard and all that's always kind of there. That's pretty consistent. But when you look at other pictures of him before the Coke, and even like now we associate him with the red and the white. He didn't wear that. It was like green. I've seen like him wearing green
Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
weird,
yeah.
like almost like cult looking garbs, like weird, like religious shit.
I
Is what he's
like.
wearing.
I have a friend who lives in Austria actually, and gets to experience, the actual Krampus festivals and all that stuff. And just as of last week, they sent me a picture of they I guess write the town Krampus and comes to the house, and along with the Krampus comes Saint Nicholas. And
Yeah.
he follows the Krampus, and what I saw in those pictures, he looks like the Pope with a beard. There's no red.
Yeah.
It's very gaudy and religious looking, and he has like a staff, and the Krampus comes around the house and sniffs around the house and asks the parents, like, do we kidnap him and whatnot? And then Saint Nicholas
Yeah.
comes in and basically says, like, okay, if so and so is good, whatever, yada yada yada, but nothing like what you see. It's very thin, tall guy with the Pope beat
Yeah.
thing.
Not as
I don't know what
exciting
it's-
looking.
No,
I mean,
he looks very serious.
Yeah.
There's also like, in the beginning stages, like Santa was an elf. That's why we have the elves. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like that's.
He rose
Again,
to the ranks.
I kept this simple because I was.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I
had
wasn't
no
about to
idea.
be going down to the the birth of Santa Claus here. So
That'll be an episode for
yeah.
another day.
right, that's what I'm saying. So,
But
yeah, you can thank Coca-Cola for fucking Santa Claus, basically.
Pause real quick. Wait, so Santa was originally an elf, and that's why now, like throughout the years, they just gave him elves.
I don't think that's the exact
Okay.
thing, but when I was reading, like there was different forms of Santa before he was this icon now, and one of the forms was that he was an elf.
Just a bigger, fatter, more official elf. with
Interesting.
A bigger job.
Also,
And
Adam,
I'm sure
yeah,
this is where the elves probably do come in.
I'm guessing that's where they fit into. That's like kind of where
Right.
they got the concept of him, those being his helpers.
Right.
Adam, you mentioned Krampus. Now, I've seen some footage of the parade and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
eventually, I do want to go to Germany because I would like to
Same.
see the whole like Krampus parade and
It's
festival.
beautiful.
Don't they like have beef, Santa Claus and the Krampus? Like, don't they want to fight? Or he's like, isn't Santa Claus supposed to be the one that like puts Krampus away or in his place?
So they're in Austria, so I don't know if it changes between countries.
Yeah.
But from what I know, is Santa Claus is like the Krampus. Santa Claus uses the Krampus as like the Punisher, so it's a lot more
Dark.
weird and
Yeah.
German and
Yeah.
like sadistic.
A
So
lot
I
more
don't think
weird
it's-
and German.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Santa Claus versus Krampus thing. I think like
Okay.
traditionally, Krampus is like the deliverer of the negativity,
Yeah.
and Santa Claus is like, you fucked up. You're gonna get kidnapped by Krampus. So
He's basically like an
yeah.
evil. He's an evil Santa Claus.
He's
That's
a
what
henchman.
Yeah.
he is a henchman of Santa.
I just thought it would be amazing if like in the middle of the parade they just started fucking wrestling. Like they just start wrestling a guy dressed as Santa and a guy dressed as Krampus.
In the U.S., you get coal. In Germany and Austria and sadistic places the like, you get kidnapped by a demon
You
and
get
set
kidnapped.
on fire.
Wow.
So-
We're doing it wrong here, man. We should be doing it that
Yeah,
way.
no, for
Scare
real.
the shit out of the children.
The legend comes to life for the very first time. With all the magic, all the adventure, all the wonder. Santa Claus, the movie. Seeing is believing.
I'm going to start with my pick because it can kind of piggyback off Dave's. So I'm gonna go with Santa Claus the movie,
Classic.
via 1985. Um, Reason I'm going with it. So a few things here. So it's 1985. This is a huge budget movie. It was $50 million budget, and it only made 25 million. So that's probably why you don't know about it. It's a gem. It's sad that this is like a rarity that gets bought up because when I saw it as a kid, it's a good origin story,
Mhm.
Hollywood wise. Just to kind of summarize, so I wrote it's a Santa origin story. Um, Chris and his wife Anya are these two people who go around in small villages, and they don't specify the country, and deliver handmade toys to children, and carves like small wooden what they call bendigums. And bendigums are what they know as elves. And they deliver with them to children, and one night they're out delivering to children, and they get caught in this big snowstorm, and it's assumed they either die or ascend to the North Pole because they get caught in the snowstorm, they fall asleep, the reindeer die, whatever. They wake up and there's these elves, including Dudley Moore.
Dudley Moore. I was about to
Like
say.
you have been chosen. This is your destiny, whatever. And they take him to this fancy North Pole, and he sees them all making toys. And fast forward, they make him into Santa Claus, and stuff that you see is like Patches. The Dudley Moore's like the head elf, and there's Burgess Meredith as Mickey from Rocky as the elder
Yep.
elf
Yeah.
with the
Yep.
largest beard on film ever.
Yeah.
Like he has 8 other elves carrying the beard,
Yeah.
and the reindeer fly because he gives them magic reindeer dust food, and
Yep.
it goes through how he's learning how to become Santa Claus and whatever. And down the line, he ends up appointing Dudley Moore as the head elf because Dudley Moore has come up with this way to mass produce toys at a faster rate. And it's like, oh, great, whatever. And eventually, Dudley Moore's toys become shit because the machines that make them don't work, and
Yeah.
the toys are getting returned, and he gets banished to New York City, where he meets John Lithgow, who's a corrupt toy maker
Amazing.
who puts glass and
Amazing.
needles in toys. And
Yo-
John Lithgow is fantastic in this movie.
John
And-
always
Lithgow's
good.
great in everything. Yeah, I was about to
and
say. He's the,
one of my favorite lines from this is how it's like what we're gonna make me. He points Dudley Moore. It's like you're gonna help me make Christmas with your flying dust, and children are gonna fly and shit. He's like, what the money we can make? He's like, well, they should be for free. He's like, for free.
yeah.
And I'm getting off track on the Santa Claus element. Santa Claus is played by David Huddleston. Somebody, if you saw outside of the Santa Claus beard, you're like, I know this guy. Where is he from? And in IMDb, he is Frank Reynolds' supposed dead partner, and It's Always Sunny, the Christmas episode, which
Oh.
is one of the greatest Christmas episodes of
I have to
anything you've
rewatch
ever
that.
seen.
Yeah, it's been a while for me to
It's
have.
the best
since I
episode the
watched it.
show has ever made. He is also the Big Lebowski and
Oh.
Grandpa Arnold in The Wonder Years. So I'm like, that's where I know this guy from. But you would never know it's him with the beard, like looks wise.
Yeah.
He's the best on-screen Santa Claus. I don't think I've seen anybody better because it's
Yeah.
believable person. It's not hokey, it's not cartoony. It's like, okay, I would believe this totally. And I mean, it's just such a good movie. Dave, you've seen it. You haven't seen it.
I've seen it. I've seen
Okay.
it. This was a movie that always played on HBO when I was a kid.
Always.
I remember
That
it was
seems- yeah, that seems right.
always on HBO. So I remember watching it so many times. I haven't seen it in a few years, and you're inspiring me to revisit it. 'Cause
Go find
it's been
it
a
whatever
minute.
stream.
Yeah.
I think we paid money for it to buy it on streaming.
Okay.
I mean,
And-
that's fair.
It's long. It's a long movie. Santa Claus befriends a homeless boy. The homeless boy does the super duper looper in Santa's
Yeah.
sleigh, and it's like, oh, the reindeer have never done this before. Like, I'm probably not selling it as well as I should, but I promise to anybody who's listening who's never seen this, this is as good as the '80s gets.
Yeah, it is.
With big budget holiday movies, that deserve like right now they're like A Christmas Story is my all-time favorite movie.
Yeah.
Period. I'm a Halloween person. I love the movie, Leg Lamp,
We
but
talked about that last year. That was one of Dave's picks. Dave, I think it was
right.
last year. Dave picked the Santa Claus from A Christmas
I
Story.
was debating that, so I'm
Yeah.
glad I didn't.
Yeah.
But as good as A Christmas Story is, this to me is probably as close a second as you can come, and nobody knows it. The fact that you guys know it was actually surprising to me because
Really?
it just
Two-
gets forgotten.
Well, three things that stick out to me. So I definitely watch this all the time. Also, I'm pretty sure I taped it off of TV and watched the tape.
Oh,
all
I
the
definitely
time.
did.
And there's two scenes that specifically have always stuck out to me. It's the beginning scene when the little poor boy like is knocking on the girl's window and she gives him a whole plate of food.
That food
Yes.
looks so good.
Yes,
looks
I
so
forgot.
good.
Wow, I forgot
That's what I
about
was
that.
hoping you'd say.
And now is he downing a Coke or is he downing a Pepsi?
It's Coke. Oh, it's definitely Coke.
There
he's
you go.
fucking slamming it down. Yo, every time as a kid, I'm like, yo, man, that looks so good. That meal.
I think this is two times you and I have agreed on food looking good, which is
Yes.
this, and I think Garfield, the
Yep.
Garfield thing.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
breakfast platter. Yep.
I don't know what she gives him a roll or it's like a piece of ham or something. I'm like, I don't know why this looks so
It
good.
looks so good.
He's
He's
looking
just
in the window at
chomping it-
McDonald's and he's
chomping down on it, like in the middle of this. Like it just looks like it's freezing. He's outside the window, and she's like, "Go ahead, eat." So that scene, and are they candy canes that John Lithgow is eating, and he starts levitating?
and he flies away
Yeah,
at the end of
yeah.
the movie. He flies away, and it's because they take the reindeer dust food and make it into candy canes. Like we're going to call it Christmas too, and he makes them into.
Those
I think
two
it's
scenes
candy
always stick out
canes or
to me.
lollipops, and he's having like a Scarface moment where it's just
Yeah, he's like chewing on them.
yeah, and then he's just floats out the window. Most movies in the '80s end up with the villain falling into something. The He-Man movie, Skeletor
Yeah,
falls into
yeah.
whatever. He just floats away to space.
He
And I think
floats
at
up.
the end you see him in space.
I gotta rewatch it. It's been a long time.
I
Like
haven't
said,
seen it since a kid.
yeah, it's
honestly.
it's
Oh,
been years.
You have to.
Yeah.
I think this
should do-
holiday season, this year, I'm gonna rewatch it. So
We should do a Mystery Science Theater 3000 type thing with a rewatch. That would be brilliant.
That would be pretty fun.
that is an idea. I do remember this movie having a lot of World Trade Center shots. You see the World Trade Center bunch in it, right?
Yeah.
And like he flies his sleigh like through like Rockefeller Center. There's like a bunch of different scenes like of him going over the city.
They need
So-
to put that on IMAX in the Liberty Science Center. Like, imagine how ridiculous that would be.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, and like you said it, I guess it bombed when it came out, so that's
Yeah, it
why
made
it kind of
half-
Which is weird. That's so weird to me.
Yeah, me too. Because it made half the budget.
'Cause it's a
I think
Christmas
they said it was
movie.
25 mil. And it was $50 million, and in 1985, $50 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, but even if you think about it, like and I guess it's because it was more successful, but like the Tim Allen Santa Claus movie is super popular, and
Right.
you see it all the time. But this isn't. It's really odd. And Dudley Moore was insanely popular in the '80s, so it's weird
Exactly.
that I'm curious. I didn't do any research, but I'm curious. But outside of the budget, why it bombed? It was released in November, I think, too. Right? Is the release?
prime holiday season.
Yeah,
I
weird.
think the only thing that probably hurt it was Santa Claus was anybody knew. But
Yeah.
what fat actor at the time would have fit Santa Claus? Like Norm from Cheers? Like I don't know who they could have picked.
That would have been an
But-
interesting take.
Yeah, no. But the guy, it works perfectly. I watched that and I'm like, there's nobody who's pulled off the character on film better and
Yeah.
more believable to like the iconic role.
So if there's any younger listeners here, go out of your way to watch Santa Claus the movie.
What's this? What's this? There's color everywhere. What's this? There's white things in the air.
All right, so I'm gonna start with my my basic pick first.
Okay.
And he's technically not a Santa Claus, but the entire plot of the movie is him wanting to be Santa Claus. And it's a movie that doesn't come up that often on the podcast. I feel like Disney has kind of, I guess, oversaturated it, so people sort of hate on the movie. I'm not in that camp. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm not one of those people. But my first pick is Jack Skellington's attempt at being Santa from 1993's A Nightmare Before Christmas.
I can't believe that's 93. I was only 10. I don't even
It's
remember
12.
it as a kid. It's just
I
weird.
remember the commercial. I think it's something I taped off TV.
Yeah.
The end of the commercial where the cat was getting its tail turned for something.
Yeah.
I don't. That's like my only memory of it when it came out.
Right, yeah, I don't have any memory of it when it came out, which is weird to me.
Which
but-
is weird. So I saw it in the theater. You know, quick little tidbit here about, like, you know, our own, I guess, you know, you guys don't even remember when you saw it. I saw it in the theater, and I remember my mother buying the VHS at a mom and pop video store. It was a big clamshell
Yep.
VHS. I still have it.
I
the
have one of
same
them
copy.
somewhere too.
And I remember when it came out, you know, obviously being a big Halloween kid, horror kid, the movie was like it was like my movie. Like that was
Yeah, it was
that
it.
was
I
my
get it.
Chris, you
Yeah,
know.
that was it. That was the movie. Yeah.
And you know, whatever, however you feel about Tim Burton, because technically he didn't direct this, he produced it, created the characters. I think he wrote the script. It's not a directed film by him, but his fingerprints are all over the movie.
Right.
And to this
His
day,
name is attached.
yeah, people will always say it's Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. So it will always be synonymous with him. It's his baby, and I think there's even images of the characters, him drawing them when he was in college, stuff like that. But the fact that the movie, and we're gonna get back to Jack Skellington's attempt at Santa, but the fact that the movie was able to meld Halloween and Christmas perfectly, and it's always like that debate: is it a Halloween movie or is it a Christmas movie? It really is both when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's not more so.
And the divide is equal too, I think.
I would agree. Like, people will, oh, it's more of a Christmas movie. The first 20 minutes, it's a short film. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes. But the first half hour, they're in Halloween Town. This is Halloween, all that stuff,
Yeah.
all the monsters. There's jack-o'-lanterns everywhere. It's very much a Halloween movie. And then, yeah, he goes to Christmas Town, but he's only there for a little while. And then he tries to be Santa Claus in Halloween Town where he's setting everything up. So I always felt it was both. You could watch it in October. You could watch it in
I
December.
agree with you.
You know? Now, on the subject of people kind of shitting on it, fine, whatever. Emo kids in like the early 2000s were obsessed with it. Hot Topic had all the shirts. Got a little corny there for a minute. But I still think, looking at it, to this day, dude, you go anywhere, you'll go to Five Below, and there is a Nightmare Before Christmas merch there. Like, whatever. It's a popular. You'll also see a Christmas Story merch there. And people, there's not as much hate on A Christmas Story. And I feel like it has probably the same amount of popularity when it comes to the holidays. I just think that people hate on aspects of A Nightmare Before Christmas because it's associated with like mall Hot Topic emo kids. That's really why people, I think, kind of shit on it. Because as a movie, it's a good movie. Especially a good kind of stop motion film. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Right.
of course. I think my stance on this film is I've only seen it once.
Okay.
Like, I think I've only watched it once.
Yep.
I don't remember seeing it as a kid. As a matter of fact, I don't think I ever saw it as a kid.
Okay.
I think this was just something that it was a Disney thing. I was 10 years old. I was like, I'm not into that anymore. Like, I just skipped it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it probably much later in life, and it's great. It is a great movie. However, like, I'm also indifferent to it where, like, it's never going to be like my first 10 choices to ever watch that movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I am so in line with how it is to how Dave sees it because it came out. It was a Disney thing. I don't watch Disney movies anymore. I
Yeah.
don't care. And then as I got older and into my teens, like my late teens and 20s, I had a girlfriend who was super into it. She's like, you got to watch it. And this applies, I don't know why, to every Tim Burton animated
Yeah.
like stop motion thing. They lull me to sleep. I don't know why.
Okay.
Every time we're talking like when I finally watched it, like Nightmare Before Christmas in total, I had to watch it in parts because I couldn't
Interesting.
stay awake. And I have one of my closest friends gives me shit. He's like, I don't understand how you don't like this movie. And to an extent, I get it. But my grudge with it is I didn't watch it in its entirety until I was probably 29, 30 years old.
Wow.
And it was
Yeah.
and it was a struggle. I had seen it I went to see it in the theaters and fallen asleep.
Wow.
We're talking multiple attempts, multiple failures until I watched it. And I think my grudge with it was this isn't a Halloween movie, it's a Christmas movie. That's how I always saw it. I'm like, it's a Christmas movie that's kind of like overshadowing Halloween.
Really?
When I finally saw it, I'm like, okay, it's kind of
Yeah.
equal. And like, do I respect it for what it is? Absolutely. Is it way overdone? Absolutely. I remember in like 1998, my girlfriend wanted the girlfriend at the time wanted a Jack Skellington beanie that Hot Topic
Yeah.
had.
Exactly. See?
But the funny part is it's the only thing they sold.
Okay.
They sold it, it sold out. It wasn't a big deal. And somewhere
Yeah.
between 1998 and like 2002, it's everywhere. So I think the oversaturation of it, sure. Me not having an emotional attachment to it, like Dave says, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's there, fine. I finally saw it, whatever. But I viewed it as a Christmas movie. I'm like, and when you rewatch it, it's like, okay, there's some great Halloween elements to it.
There's
but
a
it's
lot of great
also-
Halloween elements.
But it's also the catalyst for every mall goth aesthetic for the next 20 years.
I
it's
tell
right
you,
on.
that's why people hate the movie. I'm telling you, people hate the movie.
It's
That
Marilyn
doesn't bother me.
Manson's.
I know.
It's everything Marilyn Manson was when Marilyn Manson came out.
And I
it's
like Marilyn Manson. Like, I'm not
Sure.
even going to front.
But it's like, if I see one more black and white striped thing, it's just like, Jesus Christ.
I don't see. And I might be, not that I'm in the minority, because again, opinions, it's all subjective at the end of the day. But I feel like people pick and choose what to hate on sometimes, because I could tell you right now, some of the stuff that's come out and maybe it's because I'm older, there's been way cringier shit in pop culture than A Nightmare Before Christmas, and and it's product of the time. Like you mentioned Marilyn Manson, right? I could get people that don't like when Manson came out. If you were, and none of us here were 25 when Manson came out, right?
Right.
When Marilyn Manson was a
No,
thing,
we were
we were all a lot
teenagers.
younger.
No, Marilyn-
Yeah,
It's just the aesthetic. He was great. Like, it was
Yeah.
the first time as, like, a teenager where, like, I'm seeing something that's scaring the shit out of me.
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it was actually disturbing, and that doesn't happen anymore. But what I'm saying, it's Willy Wonka and Nightmare Before Christmas melded together,
Yeah.
and that's what Marilyn Manson was for the first 10
Exactly.
years. And then that's why all the goth kids in the mall had like black and white striped stockings and lunch boxes, and it's something you couldn't avoid. It was like a bad pop
Yeah.
song. It's like you couldn't avoid Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
aesthetic
I mean, you
anyway.
still can't avoid it. I mean,
No.
so
You're right.
here's something that's actually pretty smart. On one of the routes for the borough that I live in, when we do trash pickup on Halloween, these people put up one of those giant skeletons, but it was Jack Skellington. Like those 6-7 foot skeletons skeletons that you could buy at Home Depot. So they sell Jack Skellington ones. They just left it up for Christmas. I mean, it's a brilliant move, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, because technically it's a Halloween film
Right,
and
yeah,
a Christmas
yeah.
movie. So
I think the only thing that I'm not on the same page with Adam
Yeah.
as far as we view this movie is I do see it as both Halloween and Christmas.
So do
sure.
I.
And I
Yeah.
think
For me,
now
it's
that
like
I
a
saw
divide.
it, as a whole, I can see that. But my initial impression for the 20-something years it was out that I didn't watch it, I was like, oh, this is a Christmas movie. Why? Whatever.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's
I
the
get it.
initial impression is it's like, okay, this is the Christmas movie that kind of over
Well, I
is
think I could see
intended
that
to
too. I think I see your
Trump
your
Halloween,
point.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is
Right.
stupid.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like I said, a lot of the people that kind of shit on it are because of the oversaturation and the emo mall goth kids. Like I feel like that's always the excuse. And I'm like, people love Ghostbusters, people love Star Wars, people love all that shit. And I feel like it's
Star
just
Wars.
just as equally in pop culture, it's this giant thing. Like if you love the Ninja Turtles, it's
You're
just
not
as
seeing
over.
people walking around dressed like Donatello all the time.
Not necessarily. I've seen people wearing like those cheesy, corny ass hoodies that look like characters. Like I've seen that. Like, and to me, that's just as cringy, my opinion, as you wearing a like whatever fucking Nightmare Before Christmas thing. Like I get it. Like my wife, she loves Nightmare Before Christmas, but she's also been watching it since she was little. She loves the movie. So for me, it's like that's her movie. We put up our little tree. She wants to watch the movie. During Halloween, she wants to watch the movie because it also has a lot of Halloween in it. So
Sure.
to me, it's a situation. And I always will. You know, I don't own a lot of stuff around the movie, but like I own the little vampire doll from it. Like I have one of those. Like I have some stuff. I have a couple of ornaments in my tree. At the end of the day, if you're a Halloween fan, it's kind of our movie. Like when it comes to the holidays as well.
Yeah, I get it.
Because that's when you can find certain things. Now, not having any emotional attachment, I get it. It's, you know, it just wasn't your thing when you were a kid, and it took you years to finally watch it.
Don't get me wrong; it still has great characters like Lock, Stock, and
Yeah.
Barrel are great.
Oh, they're fucking awesome, yeah.
The pumpkins and stuff in it, like just if you watched the first maybe 10 minutes of that movie and then stopped, I'd be like, yo, this is a cool little thing to watch. It's
Yeah.
just where it went.
I get it. I get it, man. Like I said, I just, it's a little hypocritical that I've seen people kind of shit on it because of it's popular. Like, like that's, to me, that's one of the, to me, anyone that says that shit, you're a fucking cornball. Like, that's probably the corniest thing to fucking say. Like, in my opinion. Like, oh, everyone likes that. Buh. Yo, that's mad corny. You're just as corny as the kids you're making fun of. You know what I mean? Like, you're just as, it's like telling people, oh, you listen to Metallica, you're fucking, you don't listen to fucking Deicide or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's fucking corny too. You know, like, so I compare it the same thing. It's like, not everyone's going to be deep cut with stuff and be like, oh, I prefer watching during the holiday season the Santa Claus the movie. You know what I mean? And I'm not making fun of you, Adam, but you know what I mean. Like, not everyone's like that. So it's I just
It's a
find
divisive topic. I get it.
It's fucking hysterical to me. Like, I always think it's fucking funny. And you know what? And you know, being predominantly a Halloween podcast, there is a lot of corny Halloween people. So I will be very honest
100%.
about
That's true.
a lot of, you know, I wouldn't say we're the most conventional looking Halloween, you know, people, but a lot of fucking corny Halloween people out there.
You're not
But
wrong.
yes, we'll end it there, and we'll move on to the reason why I chose this briefly. I love in the movie how Jack Skellington is a skeleton, the king, you know, of Halloween Town. He's the Pumpkin King. And the concept that he is so bored with Halloween that he wants to be Santa Claus and try to celebrate Christmas in both Halloween Town and regular Earth, whatever dimension the world is in, because apparently Halloween Town's another dimension. And what I love about just his attempt at trying to be Santa Claus and wanting to be, I don't want to say the character, because in this universe, Santa's a real person. And the movie does have a Santa Claus, by the way, which is also a great design. You know, the way that he's just odd looking. He's huge with a little head and little feet and a little arms. And he wears like underwear that looks like mistletoe or something. It's really,
He's an elf.
obviously very Tim Burton-y when you watch it. But just everything about the buildup, him wanting, like him explaining to the town of, you know, explaining to Halloween Town who Santa Claus is, and not being able to, like, treating Santa as something scary unintentionally. Sandy Claus and all that. You know, like everything about Santa Claus is innocent, but Jack can't help it but make it sound scary because of who he really is. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I've always loved that, and just kind of him building his own suit, him having reindeer that are skeletons. Like, he just can't help it that the shit is still spooky because he's spooky at heart. You know what I mean? He can't keep that out of his whole aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I just love that, and how
Well,
he
that's
has
what
to
it is.
end up-
That's his aesthetic. So
I
and that
think-
goes back to our main conversation about how it's a Halloween movie, because even though Jack Skellington's trying to celebrate Christmas, all the gifts he's giving can kill people and maul people and attack people. He wants to be this innocent Santa Claus and just can't because of who he really is.
I think
love
that makes
it,
me a hypocrite too. You know, because like
I just
when
proved it.
when you said it's like, oh, his reindeer are made out of skeletons, and
Yeah.
Dave, you mentioned like people you saw just leave that out as a decoration in my front yard right now. Still from Halloween, hanging are skeletons from the tree in the front yard. Just yesterday, I lowered those skeletons, glued Santa Claus hats on them, and put them back up. So I'm doing that exact same thing
perfect.
you're saying. Jack
Listen,
Skellington's
it's a
doing.
good
So
move.
I'm a giant hypocrite.
Smart move.
But yeah, like like the design of the character. I love how he's got this really shitty beard that's hanging off of him. He's really skinny, Jack Skellington. All of our listeners, you all know what Jack Skellington looks like. And just the way he puts it together, his ho ho ho, and then his really creepy shriek that he does afterwards. His entire experience in Christmas Town, where what's this in the snow and the elves. And then you mentioned Lock, Stock, and Barrel having to kidnap the real Santa Claus just so Jack can go out and deliver presents instead. And they're really shitty. Like, they feed him to Oogie Boogie and stuff. Just like, I just love how they were able to take the character of Santa Claus and have this guy put a completely demented, creepy, Halloween-y twist on the legend that is Santa Claus. And you know, he does fuck up Christmas, you know, and then it comes to the realizations to believe in who he is, who he really is, which is the Pumpkin King. And I just love it. And I think he should be counted as a Santa Claus because technically he took up the mantle of Santa for one night and fucked everything up. So that's why I picked Jack Skellington as Santa, his attempt as Santa, because just everything about it, everything about just the way they tell the story, because that's really what the entire plot of Nightmare Before Christmas is, that this guy wants to be Santa and celebrate Christmas. That's literally it. And as much as you guys, you know, you didn't have much of an attachment to it, I always will tell people, especially people, and I feel like guys kind of in our age range, a little older, kind of shit at, it's Disney, kid stuff. But this was a different Disney when they produced this movie. It was a different time.
100%.
It's got some pretty underlying dark elements. You know, one of the funny moments in it is one of the presents that Jack leaves. And this was in the trailer. You mentioned the trailer to the movie. I remember it ends with, you know, the mom comes in, she's off screen, little boy, oh, what did Santa give you? He opens the gift and pulls out a severed head. Like, it's like a decayed severed head. So it's like Disney today would never do something like that, you know, and you know, so.
I do think sometimes that if it came out now, in our current ages, we would see that, at least for me, and appreciate it differently.
For sure.
Like, my friend
definitely.
constantly tells me, he's like, I have no idea how you don't like this movie. I don't get it. It should be your thing. And it's like, I get what he's saying, but it was also, you know, 20-something years, 15-something years before I even saw the whole thing. With, I mean, at, what, 12? Well, it was 12. I wasn't Halloween obsessed. So if Frozen version of Disney decides, like, we're going to put this fucked up claymation movie out, and 40-something-year-old me is like, I'm rooting for, I'm going to see that.
Exactly.
I would probably feel differently, but, you know, I don't have that same exposure and the same nostalgia towards it just because of when it came out.
I get that, man. Like I said, I understand that part of it, and I totally get why you just have there's no connection to the movie. You know, I'm a little bit younger than you guys. Maybe that's what it is, but only by a couple of years. So I don't know. It's just, it definitely made an impact on me when I was, 7 or 8 when it came out. I loved Halloween. So for a film that takes place on Halloween and Christmas, and obviously as a kid you love Christmas too because of presents and Santa Claus and all that shit, I was like, this looks like the greatest movie of all time, So again, didn't mean I'm not shitting on any of the people that hate the movie because of its, I guess, space it takes up in pop culture and at every store you go to. I think people are a little harsh on it. And I also, the main reason why I picked this, I think Jack Skellington's attempt at Santa is both hysterical and also a little depressing and sad because, dude, when he gets blown out of the sky and falls in the graveyard, it's one of the saddest moments ever. Like, go back and watch it if it's been a while. You're like, damn, Jack Skellington.
Right.
My man just wanted to be Santa and celebrate Christmas, and the fucking government shot him down.
Now when you buy Pepsi products, you can instantly win one of thousands of PlayStation games and consoles. It might just change your plans for the holidays.
So, as Louis mentioned earlier, I kind of have a theme with my Santa picks this year, and my second pick is a Pepsi Santa. I mean, honestly, this one doesn't even hold a candle to anything that Coca-Cola has done with Santa Claus, but it's fun and unique in its own way. Now, this is not the only Santa the company has produced. The company has also produced a classic-looking Santa just like Coca-Cola has. However, specifically, this Santa Claus has gotten a little bit of a resurgence this year, especially from our buds at the Leftover Pizza podcast. And this specifically cool-looking, cool shade-wearing Santa that was featured on one of 6 cans that was released for the holiday season in 1990. This Santa is holding a can of his favorite beverage while donning a green lens pair of sunglasses, chilling with his main cohort, Rudolph, who is also green. If I'm being honest, and in my opinion, this Santa looks like he was pulled right out of Doug Funny's home, Bluffington. And maybe it's Mr. Dink in disguise, but I just felt like I had to choose this one too because I would buy a can of this soda every year if the Santa Claus was on it.
It is an interesting, what's funny, the can that you sent us with like this picture, by the way, I don't remember seeing this like on the
I don't know if
shelves.
I remember either, but I love it.
When you sent it to me, I was like, wow, this, like, speaking of not having nostalgia for something, I have no recollection of seeing this can in stores during the holidays at all. You know what's weird too? It almost looks like the reindeer is a pool floaty around Santa Claus' waist, especially with him wearing the sunglasses and
I love that
holding.
it's green.
I know, really.
Like, what an interesting choice. And doesn't it look like that Santa Claus is from Doug? Like, that's what I see immediately.
That's a very good thing because there's something familiar about it. When I looked at it, I'm like, I know it looks similar to something, and that's probably where my brain is connecting it.
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Dink's fucking dressed as Santa Claus.
Douglas.
That was good.
So I'm not a soda drinker. Like I'm not. Like ever since I was a little kid, water. Give me water. So like the Coca-Cola Santa thing is kind of hard to avoid. But from what I do, I don't have familiarity with the can, but I vaguely remember like a commercial. But the thing that I think really kind of shines through in a very simply stated way is Coca-Cola's image and advertising versus Pepsi's, because Coca-Cola is purist in a way. I don't know if I'm even using the right term for that. Where Pepsi is like, no, we're the cool kids. Okay, Grandpa.
I can see that.
But like Pepsi was always the choice of a new generation. Like in the 80s, that's how it was marketed. And just even by you using those two contrasting Santa Clauses, whether one is like this icon where the other one's like, okay, this is kind of what Pepsi did.
Alternative Santa.
Right. And you can use those two things to illustrate such a bigger idea.
Yeah.
Because Coke just has never strayed from being Coke. Coke is warm and fuzzy family moments and polar bears, even though we put cocaine in our soda. And
Oh no.
that sound them putting cocaine in their soda sounds more like a Pepsi thing, but that we don't talk about that. But yeah, though, because I came up kind of like, what do I say about this? I don't know much about it, but when you look at the two things contrasting wise, it's a very simply stated, profound. This is how Coke is. This is how Pepsi is.
So, real quick, and I'm trying not to do tangents here but the Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream soda is probably the best soda I've ever had in my life.
Haven't had
I'll
it.
try it, but I hate Dr.
Oh, it's
does
so
it taste
fucking
anything
good.
like Dr. Pepper?
Dude, this is what it tastes like. Ready? It tastes like a Shirley Temple with melted vanilla ice cream in it.
Ooh. See, I'm sold on
That's
that.
what it
I'd
tastes
try
like.
I hate Dr. Pepper. I loathe Dr. Pepper.
Oh, I like it.
But like, for example, the vanilla Coke. Love vanilla Coke. Still prefer
You'll like
Pepsi.
this.
But I would try that simply because of that description. I'm like, that's
Yep.
if it's not reminiscent of Dr. Pepper, I'm all about it. Especially describing it that way. Sure.
Yeah,
You know.
it's delicious.
What do you want? What are you doing? God damn it!
Nintendo Deer Hunter 3.
Shit, what you want? Blowing snot all over everybody and fucking whatever next. Come on.
All right. So my second pick, familiar to you, Dave, but not to you, Lou, if I'm correct.
I have not guilty. I don't want to say what it is yet, but this film, I have never seen it. Similar to kind of the way you treated Nightmare Before Christmas, I had no interest in this movie when it came out.
Okay.
I was just
I also get that. I understand where
Yeah,
you're
I
coming
had
from with that.
no interest. And I was what, maybe 20 or something when this came out? I don't even know what year it came out. But yes, continue, Adam.
All right. So maybe I'll change your mind here. Maybe not. So Bad Santa 2003 falls in line with a lot of Christmas movie just experience with me because I'm a Halloween person. We're here because we're Halloween people. My favorite movie of all time is A Christmas Story. Why? Because it is the most quotable, non-waste of film there is. Every scene, every line is quotable.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Santa. Bad Santa, I saw in the theaters.
Okay.
And when anybody asks me the question, what is the funniest movie you've ever seen in the theaters? This is my answer because I went into it knowing nothing. This was one of those, want to go see a movie? Sure. What do you want to see? Oh, I don't know. What's out? A Bad Santa? Sure, we'll go see that. And Eight Crazy Nights actually falls into this too because it's like it went into it kind of and it was just like I can't stop laughing.
Interesting.
It is such an over the top, crude, like teenage fart joke level of humor, but just pathetic in the most funniest way. The best thing I can explain is Billy Bob Thornton's character in Bad Santa is when you look at Billy Bob Thornton, you're like, that's how he must really be like.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see that too.
If you were named Billy Bob Thornton, and he just looks like a scumbag. And like you are a respected Hollywood actor. I think he's won an Oscar for Sling Blade.
Yeah.
But like when you see him as the character in Bad Santa, you're like, that's who Billy Bob Thornton is.
I can see that.
And just to summarize, you haven't seen it. If you are intentionally avoiding it because you're like, I don't like this play on Santa Claus, whatever. But the premise of that movie is that him and his midget friend, can we say midget?
Yep.
Little person friend?
Little person. I think it's the proper
little
term.
person.
Played by Tony Cox, maybe more famous from the Dr. Dre Tupac California Love video.
Yeah.
Also in Willow.
Yeah.
Also in a few other things. He plays Santa. Somebody's gonna hire that dude because he looks authentic to Santa. They go to malls every year, and then they figure he's an expert safe cracker, and then they hijack the mall on Christmas Eve and take all the money, and vanish because nobody's going to find a midget unless very skinny drunk.
I love Adam just keeps using that word.
Oh, canceled, never to be.
Nah,
shared
don't
on this.
cancel Adam. It's innocent. You can use whatever words you want to use on this show. I don't mind Adam.
the heartwarming aspect is they're in a mall and somewhere, and the child from Trick or Treat, the curly haired kid, who
Yeah,
ends
the
up
kid that
dying,
gets poisoned.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah.
He is
poisoned
in
him.
that,
I was
yeah.
gonna
He's
mention
younger
that.
and cuter. He's younger and cuter.
Yeah.
He befriends this kid whose parent is away and lives in his house, and like hooks up with the girl from the Gilmore Girls, and it's an all-star cast. Bernie Mac.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
I
not a Bernie
forgot
Mac
Bernie
fan,
Mac
but Bernie
was
Mac
in
is
this.
brilliant in this, and John Ritter, two dead people.
Damn,
Best
John
movie-
Ritter, underrated, man. He was in a
Best-
lot of good movies, man.
Best movie dad ever.
Yeah.
As a child.
But
Yes. Stay
those
tuned.
two are fantastic,
Yep.
fantastic in that movie. So they rob malls, but easily by a large margin, the funniest movie I've ever seen in theaters, because I went in not knowing anything and I was dying. It is so crude. Thurman Merman, again, also from Trick or Treat, is a bully in Trick or Treat, is an adorable little snot-nosed kid in Bad Santa. So he carves Billy Bob Thornton a wooden pickle as a Christmas present. There is this movie is so goddamn quotable. It's infuriating that there's not more there's not barely any t-shirts you can get. Like Fraggle Stick Car. I won't even elaborate on it. If you watch the movie, just look out for Fraggle Stick Car. And yeah, it's just every character is great. It is so quotable, and it is sorely, sorely, sorely not given the respect it deserves for
It does have its niche. I agree with you that it is definitely underrated, but it also does people that I know people that love this movie. I've seen it before. I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember this. If you were to take the Santa Claus from Silent Night, Deadly Night, not Billy, the one in the beginning, and take away the violent aspect of him, that's what Billy Bob Thornton's Santa Claus reminds me of. Just some fucking degenerate with a Santa suit on.
It's a certain kind of humor. I'm an incredibly childish sense of humor, and this it's so, like, I can see people being off put by it, but if you cackle at just horrible things occasionally, you would love this movie. And
I want to rewatch it.
Yeah, it's so quotable. There's a sequel. I've never watched the sequel. I don't want to, because it's too perfect. I don't want to see an attempt to elaborate on it. Just so many quotable lines, so many memorable scenes, and if you haven't seen it, watch it. Will you love it? If you've avoided it, maybe not. But it's so crude. In the best.
So when it came out, I was in high school, so I was like the demographic for this. Like, I was in high. You said 03, right? I thought it came out later than that. You said 03, right?
Yeah, it says 03.
Yeah, so I was in high school, and I was going to see R-rated movies in the theaters, because I remember that was the same year Freddy vs. Jason came out. I saw that in the theater. So weird how I don't know why that movie did not appeal to me at all. It's
Billy Bob Thornton.
No, and whatever happened to Billy Bob Thornton? He just vanished. You don't ever hear about him at all anymore. Weird. Interesting career. But yeah, I don't know. It just never appealed to me. I just never was curious to watch it. I think I've seen clips when it plays on like USA or some shit on TV, but I've never paid attention and watched the movie. And I might have to this year, just because you and I are friends and you love it so much. So
when you do,
yes,
make sure you are watching an unedited version, because there's
Good to know.
And 40-Year-Old Virgin are the two movies that come on like TBS or something when it gets edited. It's
butchered.
infuriating.
Yeah.
make sure you watch it unedited because there'd be a lot of editing. But
Yeah, I gotta watch it. This was
Yeah,
one of the
I wanna
ones.
rewatch it.
I want your review when you see it too.
All right, I
It's-
will.
it's
I'm gonna
so
try to
good.
watch. I'm gonna try to watch to see where it's streaming or something. I'm gonna try to watch it before the year ends, like this holiday season. I'm gonna watch this and both your picks and revisit Santa Claus the movie because
I'm not. You don't owe that to me, but for as much as I've respected both your suggestions and become lifelong fans of both of those things, I'm like, I'd like to think I have at least a little bit of a good barometer of okay, like
I
this
believe it.
works.
I'm sure it's good. Again, I think 17-year-old Louis just had no interest. Like that was not the type of movies I wanted to watch at the time. So
If
I
I
think for
knew what
me,
it was, if I knew what it was before I saw it in the theaters, I'd be like, oh, that sounds kind of stupid.
yeah,
But I was hit with I had no idea going into it, and once you see it, you're like, holy shit, this is ridiculous.
and what's good too is as like an iconic Santa, that's like that didn't even come to mind. The name of the movie is Bad Santa. He's
And
portraying
it is,
a Santa.
It is.
Yeah. So
I agree.
it's-
It is.
Yeah, crazy that never in my mind, like when Dave and I have done these episodes in the past, that was never one that just popped in our heads to talk about because obviously I had never seen it, and Dave, it sounds like he maybe only watched it once. So
I've only seen it once, but it
So,
was
yeah.
a while back. I remember liking it.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think it got the reaction out of me it did because I was clueless.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't
Yeah.
go in there with any inclination of what was going
Right.
to happen, and then it's just like this is way
Pleasantly surprised. That's
Yes.
what you were, yeah.
Now, a magic motion picture transports you to an over-the-rainbow land, past the doors of Santa's towering castle and the strange, mysterious, all-seeing eye, into a fantastic crystal laboratory filled with weird and wonderful secrets no one has ever seen before. You'll see them all, and you'll discover how Santa can watch every child on Earth.
So we're saving the most outrageous for last.
I guess so. I guess you're right.
The most ridiculous for last. My second and our last pick here for 2023, Iconic Santas, Part 4. I'm picking the Santa Claus from the 1959/1960 Mexican film Santa Claus versus the Devil. That is a real movie. Now, the
Ongoing-
reason
it's still an ongoing fight.
there's still a battle between the two of them going
Yes.
on as we speak.
It will be lifelong.
So real quick, the reason why there's two versions, 1959 was when the film came out in Mexico, and then 1960 is when it was re-edited, redubbed for America, for us. So there's technically two versions of this movie. Apparently, which I thought was really interesting, none of the actors who dubbed these characters for the American version have credit in the film. Crazy.
weird.
Wild. I know, 1959, 1960, Hollywood was filmmaking was very different, I guess. Now, I'm going to give you guys a very quick log line here of what the plot of this movie is. The movie literally is Santa Claus versus the devil. That's the plot of the movie. The devil sends a demon named Pitch to Earth to sabotage Christmas and kill Santa Claus. He tries to use children to be naughty and do terrible things. He tries to light Santa Claus's ass on fire in one scene, literally lights up a chimney as Santa's coming down. He is trying to corrupt Santa Claus's Christmas Eve night delivering presents. Satan hates Santa Claus and he must be destroyed. And real quick, Pitch, the devil demon character, the most inept demon ever. And I want to describe him real quick before I go into Santa, because as funny as it is, the Santa Claus is the more outlandish and strange character between the two. The devil's actually pretty normal between the two characters. So the devil character, Pitch, he's literally a classic devil, all red, big horns, little onesie type deal, chest piece. It looks like he's wearing like a onesie. He's got like the goatee at the bottom. Really odd looking. Dave, you know what this guy reminds me of? Let me see if you know. What does this devil, his look, remind me of? I want to see if it comes to mind. What does this guy remind me of?
Give me a hint.
We talked about it. The guy had a phone number that you had to call. You tried to call it on air and the number didn't work.
Oh yeah. I forgot what that. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was like that. Shit. I know what you're talking about. I forgot the name of it. Yes, I totally. Oh wait, is that the Sammy Davis Jr. thing?
Yes,
okay.
The preacher. Yeah. So there's this great anti-Halloween 1-800 preacher commercial where it's a prayer hotline. This guy's dressed up as the devil and he's telling people to celebrate Halloween because it's evil and they should go to hell with him and blah blah blah. So this guy looks in Santa Claus versus the Devil. He reminds me of that dude to a T, the most standard stereotypical devil character. But in a movie titled Santa Claus versus the Devil, Santa Claus is way creepier and strange in this movie, funny enough. So, as far as Santa Claus looks, standard stuff, looks like the Coca-Cola Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
White beard, heavy set, jolly, red and white. He looks like a mall Santa. It looks like a costume, not the most, I guess, accurate depiction of like what the beard and wig and all. It looks like he's wearing a Halloween costume. If I'm being honest, it's not the most detailed Santa outfit. But it's not really the costume that I love. Everything else about this Santa. First thing, this Santa lives in outer space in a castle.
Typical.
Yes,
fair. That's fair.
Not the North Pole. My man is in outer space in a floating castle that's like its own planet. Very
He's got the right idea.
Now, something else about this Santa that's unique to this film. We talked about elves earlier. No. This Santa Claus does not have elves. This Santa Claus has children as his slaves from different countries. He basically has the cast of It's a Small World After All at Disney as his elves. They literally make the toys. They run his castle. They run his factory. It is strange. And this is all legitimately little Mexican and Asian children. He's running a sweatshop with immigrants, this Santa Claus. It is fucking strange.
iPhones and Nikes.
Dude, literally. Children. There is a little Chinese child, a little Russian child. I am not lying to you guys. Oh, well. We will leave that right there. But yes,
this is some
children
this is some shit right here.
Yes, he's got African children hitting fucking congos.
Really?
Very odd. I am dead. This was made in 1959, so very stereotypical.
So it's a small world.
Literally, I am not
it.
shitting you. It's a Small World are his little helpers. The movie, first 10 minutes, Santa Claus approaches this piano with a scream. And he's for 10 minutes. This song is like 10 minutes long. He goes through every country and they each perform a little diddly to what country they're from.
Right, specific to their region.
It is so fucking odd. But I will say, shout out to South America because they got this one little boy with maracas, like really getting into it. They cut to him, and this kid is like really Latino. He's really fucking, it's fucking great, dude. It's so fucking ridiculous. Like, this should not be a real movie, but it is.
But it is.
Now, that's not the end of it.
Oh,
this
God.
Santa Claus. Now, how does Santa watch Earth and all the children on Earth?
Telescope?
Yes, but not any telescope. This telescope, first he has a control panel that is a face. It has two giant lips that talk. And the telescope, which he has one of the little slave children operate and look through, is an eyeball that hangs out and looks down at the planet. This shit is an acid trip. This movie is it's ridiculous. Doesn't end there. Once again, this is all in Santa's castle. Santa's also got this gentleman named Mr. Merlin, who is a wizard that looks like Merlin, who is the one that creates all of Santa's magical powers. He has his dream dust, his invisibility flower.
Dream dust is making.
Sounds like Santa Cosby.
Yes.
Dude, Dream Dust is making that's another theme in this one. Dream Dust.
Yes, Dream Dust.
You see.
He's got I think a rose that makes him invisible or float.
It sounds like a
very odd.
His
reindeer. Yes, he comes out. Oh, there's a scene where he's got one of those like machines that trims your fat and jiggles you around. And then he practices going down the chimneys. That's all in his castle. Now, Mr. Merlin and they have a strange interaction when Santa Claus goes up to him asking for these like special dust and stuff. So, Santa's also got a guy named the Keymaker who creates a key to open any lock in the world. And my man is a shirtless, bearded man with fake chest hair like pasted to him and a big beard. This is the oddest, this is the most strange shit I've, like, you guys have to watch this movie.
This doesn't end in an orgy, does it?
Not the version I saw. So, but again, all of this is batshit insane. Santa Claus doesn't have real reindeer. They're like robot reindeer that he winds up like a giant toy. They're white. And you would think the devil would be the strangest thing in this movie. Nope. It's Santa Claus and his little slave children. He uses a magic umbrella that helps him float down. Dude, everything about this, I'd say if you don't want to sit through the whole 90 minutes, watch the first 30 or 45.
I watched the clip.
Yeah, I watched the clip too. I didn't know any of this was going on.
Dude, it's bizarre.
Those sets are awesome, by the way.
Oh, dude,
yeah,
there's a
that
sequence where a little girl, because he goes into the children's dreams, a little girl's having a dream, and she wants to steal this doll, and she's not going to be naughty because then Santa won't bring her any gifts. She's like a poor child, and she's in this magical-looking hall with fog, and all these creepy, it's awesome, creepy-looking women in like synchronized dance are dancing around her with these insane masks on it. This movie is crazy. It's wild. The first 45 minutes, when the actual verses of Santa Claus and the devil happens towards the end, and he's delivering presents, it kind of goes downhill from there. It's kind of boring. It's still ridiculous, but not as good. But those first 45 minutes, bananas.
I'm starting to think this was made by a Mexican drug cartel.
Someone was on something when they wrote this script. Now, I first watched this movie when Mystery Science Theater 3000 did one of their parody watch-along video episodes.
That sounds
This was like in the late 90s, early 2000s. I watched this movie maybe 20 years ago for the first time, and that's how I watched it. It was like on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it was a rerun of Mystery Science Theater, and this was the movie they watched. And I was like, what is this crazy shit? And this crazy-ass Santa Claus with slave children. It's crazy. It's just wild.
I want to watch the whole thing.
This
is Bad Santa is going to have to be... Yeah, I'm going to have to look up on Letterboxd.
He is on... This movie's on Tubi. You can watch this on Tubi. It's free on
Tubi.
It's
very Tubi.
Wonderful. I'm adding it now.
I also think it's on YouTube in its entirety, so you can watch it there too. But when I tell you, this is probably the strangest depiction of Santa Claus you'll ever see, I can't think of anything else that would top it. It is between the It's a Small World children, his hairy keymaker guy, Mr. Merlin. The fact that he's fighting the devil is honestly like low on the list. The fact that that's even a plot point isn't the strangest thing in this movie.
It's irrelevant.
It is. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just weird.
It's so streaming on a bunch of things, by the way.
Yes. And any of the listeners, and I know neither one of you have seen it in full, but you've seen clips. This is something that needs to at least be skimmed through to like it has to be seen to be believed. It is crazy that this was made, and apparently it was successful. This was a successful film, and I'm only scratching the surface of some of the odd shit that pops up in this. It's just fucking. It's called Santa Claus versus. There's a lot of religious undertones.
It's actually just called Santa Claus, according to
I think
Letterboxd.
like the Mexican original from '59 was just called Santa Claus,
Right.
And then when they marketed it here, they changed it like in certain releases and stuff as Santa Claus versus the Devil. So crazy shit. That was the theme. Like there's another movie called Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, which I don't want to get into because that could be a future pick. That's another odd, fucking strange movie. And the fact that they even had Santa Claus versus against any of these people or going against aliens, the devil, crazy, ahead of its time. So that's my final pick. I wanted to end it here with Insanity. And I'm assuming you guys don't have much. I don't think you guys have much to say because you guys haven't seen this, right? What did you guys think? Quickly, what did you guys think of some of the stuff I showed you from this film?
I love the aesthetic of it. So it was very, all those soundstage things always to me are very surreal looking. Mm-hmm. And I watched that like 7-minute clip, 6.5-minute clip, and I was just like, it looks wacky. And I would definitely, I just added it to my watch list. So
watch it. It's crazy.
Your description of it in the 6-minute clip that I think Dave and I both watched leads nowhere. I mean, I put my notes were love the set of hell. I thought that was cool.
Love the set of hell.
The devil's ballet moves were on point, and Santa has an arrow launcher that shot him in the like. And this was nothing compared to the details you went into. So I think it's required watching. I mean, it just went darker with everything you said.
With the children. The children's where the line is drawn, right?
So get this. There's Merlin, and then Merlin comes out, and then Santa Claus's giant eye watches the children on Earth, but the China and the Russian slave children, then there's the Keymaster. It's just like, what kind of drugs is required to totally God. Yeah, this is a wild one.
So real quick, close out the episode. What would each of you pick from the 6 without picking your own? We'll start with Adam. What are you going with? Between the 6 picks, which one's your favorite?
I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's Santa Claus versus the devil. Like, it's just too left field not to.
Okay. You haven't even seen it, but you want to see it now just because of my description.
Absolutely.
What about you, Dave?
1985 Santa Claus.
Oh, I figured that was going to be figured that was going to be your pick. And I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Like Adam picking that made me want to watch the movie again. Like it had years. It almost had forgotten about it, like most people have.
Same.
Yeah. So I'm like, it inspired us. So that we'll call that the champion of this episode. Santa Claus, the movie from '85, is the champion.
That works.
With Santa Claus versus the Devil being a close second there, just because of how ridiculous it is. Both of those movies should be watched by everyone this holiday season.
In case you hadn't noticed, I'm a motherfucking dwarf. So unless you got a forklift handy, maybe you should lend a hand,
So that was Iconic Santas Part 4. Adam, thank you once again for joining us. This was a blast.
It always is.
A pleasure. Always a pleasure. I genuinely looking forward to doing this. If you do 5, count me in.
Where can people find you, Adam?
Great Pumpkin Project on Instagram, The Great Pumpkin Project as a website. Go there, pumpkins. Don't worry about it till next October. Lord knows I'm burnt out on it. So just, when October comes, check that out. Or now, whenever. Merry Christmas, not pumpkin thing right now.
And be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com for links to all things Haunted Hangover related, including our Patreon page, which features bonus spooky content.
And if you can rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays.